Hey everyone, Dr. Ryan here with Valeo Health and Wellness, and I'm here with Dr. Aaron Moreland, and he is the owner and one of the practitioners here in the office. And Dr. Aaron, I am getting older. Last year I turned 30, and I know everyone...
You look like you're 12. So.
Right, it's just, I've got that baby face that... it's, I'm keep getting told that, now that I get older, I have to start worrying about physicals and...
Yeah.
Do we do anything like that here in the office, or like what?
So at 30 years old, a lot of people would say you really don't need to get a physical.
Okay.
But I would obviously say that no, you should get a physical. I think everybody should go in and maybe once a year, maybe it's when you're younger, maybe it's every couple of years, but you really should be going in to seeing how your body's working, because there's a lot of things going on in your body that you can't feel. And you couldn't tell me right now what your blood pressure is by how you feel. You couldn't tell me how your liver's functioning, how your heart's functioning, really, unless there was something wrong. And a lot of times, even if there's something wrong, if you look at your kidneys, you have to lose up to 60 to 70% of your kidney function before any tests would even come back abnormal. And so usually it's like 90% loss of function before someone even has symptoms. So it's really important to get those, to get a physical. So yeah, at 30 years old, you may not need to go in and get some of the stuff that they encourage us to do, like a colonoscopy when you're 50 years old. But there are things that you should still be getting checked on a regular basis. So yeah, and I think you were asking the question, do we do them in our office?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we absolutely do physical in the office, and probably a little different than what you'd experience by going to your medical doctor.
So, then you said it's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of those differences? What are those similarities? How do we compare versus other practitioners?
Yeah, yeah. And some people, they're going to feel very comfortable going to their medical doctor, and we feel like if that's where you want to go, then definitely that's the place to go to. But if you think about it, just recently our kids got home from college, and our daughter has been driving back and forth from Colorado Christian University, which is out in Denver. So every year in the summertime, we make sure that when she gets back, that the car is running well. And then also when she's going to leave, we make sure the car is running well. And the reason why is because we don't want her to get stranded on the way there, on the way back. We don't want her to be stranded. She lives by the mountains. They head up in the mountains all the time. We want her to have a good, well-functioning vehicle. Okay, so we always take it into a mechanic, and the mechanic does a really good, thorough checkup on it. But I'd be pretty upset if that mechanic, I asked him to take a look at her car, and he came back and said, yeah, I moved the seat back and forth, it worked well, the windshield wipers worked well, the stereo, man, that thing's in really good shape. But if he never looked at the engine, I'd be pretty upset about that. And so one of probably the major differentiators between us and going to your typical medical doctor or typical place to get a physical is that we're going to do a lot of testing of the brain. And if you think about it, if you ask anybody, well, what runs the whole body, it'd be your brain. And a lot of times when someone goes to their doctor, they're not getting a lot of tests done on the brain. They might do some reflexes, which does test the brain to some degree, but that's about it. They're not going to test a whole lot of the other parts of the brain. So because we're trained in functional neurology, when someone comes in and does a physical in our office, we're going to take them through a pretty big regimen of brain testing, because the brain runs everything, and we want to make sure that that's working well.
Yeah, yeah. It's not too many times you can go up to somebody and ask them, hey, when was the last time you had your brain checked? And they would know exactly when they had their brain checked.
And they wouldn't really know what they're, like, what do you mean? Like, how can you test the brain? I think most people would think you'd have to go get like a CAT scan or an MRI. And that is one way to look at the brain, but we also want to see how well it's working. And so that's one of the things that sets us apart. There are a few others. We're going to do a lot of musculoskeletal as well. Again, typically you're not going to see a lot of that from from a doctor, just because that's not necessarily their training. But then, because we're trained in functional medicine, we're also going to encourage some blood testing to get done, and then that blood testing can take a really good look at different parts of their body, from liver function to kidney function to thyroid function to digestive health even. And we're going to look at it from a little different aspect. When you look at blood labs, typically when you look at those numbers, like where did they come up with those numbers, you're going to see that a lot of it's just comparing you to an average of people that came in the year before to that lab that considered themselves to be healthy. So they're going to use that number, and so that's why you can see some weird ranges, or you might see them fluctuate, be different from year to year, because they're looking at that average of people that came in that were considered healthy. And so that's
So my numbers might be compared to someone who's actually sick.
You never know, because that person that they're saying is healthy could actually be dealing with some health issues, just they're not have been diagnosed with it. So yeah, that's typically how they come up with those numbers. So and some of them are just standards that they've come up with, like blood sugar is pretty standard across the board. But that being said, they're pretty wide range. Like when you look at blood sugar, for example, it can be anywhere from 70 to up to, some will say, 110. Really, it's not until you're at 126 that you're considered diabetic. And so that's a really wide range when it comes to blood sugar, but what we want to look at is, are you within that optimal range? And really that optimal range is between 85 and 100. So if a person was at, say, 105, they would be considered, hey, you don't have diabetes, and so there wouldn't really be much for recommendations made. But if we look at them being at 105, we look at, hey, there's some things you have to do about your blood sugar, and you need to take control of that, or give that a few more years, and now you're in pre-diabetes, and a lot harder to take care of things once things have progressed and advanced. So that's the other thing. We're going to use what we call functional lab numbers. So we're going to look at those optimal lab numbers, and we'll be able to sit down with a person and show them if they're within that range or not.
So with the physicals that we're doing here, we look at brain health, we look at digestive health, we look at how well the blood chemistry is, we look at musculoskeletal, we look at, I mean, it is a thorough whole exam, and not just looking at, hey, are you sick or not?
Yeah, absolutely. And so again, we're not trying, if a person wants to go to their medical doctor and do those testing, they're more than welcome to. If they just want to come in and at least get the brain tested, that we can do that as well on top of what they're getting from their medical doctor. In our office, we see a lot of different types of people. Some people go see medical doctors. Some people, they're adamant about not going to a medical doctor. They don't want to go down that path. And so we want to be that resource for people that want to come in and get a physical. Again, I highly encourage that people get a physical, because it is something you don't always know how your body's working. There are tests that you can determine how your body's working, based off of not just how you feel, but based off of how your body's functioning.
And I do like that. You can feel great, but then your body may not be.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Absolutely.
Well, great. Anything else?
Yeah. So I think if people are interested in knowing more about this, there's a link below the video here that they can click on. They can learn, like, okay, who's this for? What exactly does that physical entail? It's going to talk about the price of it, the price of the physical, the price of doing the labs, and they can click on that to learn more. If they have questions, they can always phone our office, and if they just want to phone and schedule something, in August we actually have a special going on for those wellness physicals. So it's a great time to do those wellness physicals and get it at a cheaper price.
And you heard that, in August we are doing a special. So if you're wanting to call, our office number is 952-949-0676. Great. God bless.